So, look at this. I found my microphone, and you saw in the last video that I just found it, at the end. So, now we're going to do the right thing. I have a microphone. I'm going to continue talking about data. Silly me. So, we have continuous and attribute data. Attribute can be divided in count and actual attribute. I told you that continuous data is the best one because we have a lot more powerful things that we can do with them, and then attribute data, we don't have many things we can do with them, right? So this is just an example of how to collect each data. Whoops, no, don't go that way. Okay. So let's say that we're measuring some ball bearings, right? So these are some ball bearings and we're going to measure, right? So there's a few different things to do, right? So first I can buy this equipment here, which is a micrometer, if you didn't know what it is. And it's a kind of precise way to measure the distance, right? So, in the industry, if you say manufacturing parts, and you say for the automotive industry, you have to be very, very precise on the dimensions, right? And this is one of the equipment that could be used. So let's say every ball bearing that gets out of the process that is produced, I take the measure, right? So I measure exactly what is the size of that ball bearing, right? And then put data there, right? So we'll have a table with a bunch of numbers, exactly point or 2 decimal points or how many decimal points. And what can I do with this data? I can draw like a histogram of that data. I can do a bunch of different things, medium. I can have the mode and the mean and the standard deviation, confidence interval, a bunch of fun things that we're going to work a lot later on. And I know they're very excited about all the statistics, but it is coming. Stats is coming. Yeah, I know. You're happy as I am. So, or you can just collect data and say, okay, let's have 3 sizes of ball bearings, and let's drop them there, and whatever passed through all of them is too small. Whatever stays in one of them here, it's acceptable. But I have a bigger one that take all the acceptables and throw it in a bigger one, and if it got stuck, it's actually too large, right? So I basically need 2 holes to do that. I need to classify them twice, but I will end up having data that, again, looks like this, right? So I have some of them going to be too small, some of them acceptable, some of them will be too large. But if you look at the data per ball, right, you're going to look at per each one of those ball bearings, you're going to say good or bad, or small, small, large, small, good, 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 large, small. So you're only having a classification, right? And that's an attribute. And you can see that the only thing I can do here is basically, divide them into good and bad and have a percentage. Oh, I know that 95% are acceptable, 2% is too small, and 3% is it's too large, right? But I can't do all kinds of cool and different analysis that I can do if I have had continuous data. Another thing that you have to think about is that, well, I can collect continuous data and say, okay, let's say that below 4.6 is too low, above 5.4 it's too large, and everything in the middle is acceptable. Well, I can transform continuous data, right, the histogram, into an attribute data if I want to, right? But then after I collected the data, and I can use that as an attribute data, that's okay. That's fine if that's what I want. But I cannot go the other way around. I cannot collect attribute data and then, oh, let's make it continuous. Doesn't work. So that's another thing why continuous, let me tell you a secret, continuous is a lot better than attribute data. Okay, keep that somewhere in your mind. So this is another example, so we just understand what's the difference between count data and attribute data. In this case, we're counting the number of misspelling that occur in a page. So let's say that we have some page here from 0 to 18. Different misspelling can happen. This is the frequency that they happen. So we have 14 pages that have let's say we're doing a English checking process, right? We're checking for words that were typed or written. So I had 14 pages that didn't have any misspelling problem. I had 8 pages that have 1 or 2. I have 4 that have 3, and so forth and so on. So you can actually classify a little bit more because what I have is the actual number. It's a number of counts of how many times it happened, right? So you can do a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it will be still an attribute kind of data. And this one, we're looking at how many pages we have, how many had misspellings. 86% of them had misspellings. 14 didn't have any misspellings. So classical attribute data.